Mud floods are beginning to happen across the globe. Is it because of extra cosmic rays from the two supernovae that we see, or is it a depleting magnetic field on Earth? And this one out of India, I've seen a lot of disaster footage, but this I've never seen really anything overwhelming like this. It was 100-foot deep canyon and the water came out over into this village. It was from a cloudburst further up in the hills that had rained so much, a river from the sky, which would be expected with extra cosmic ray density, increasing cloud cover, weakening magnetic field. And this quote unquote cloudburst, I call it a river from the sky, is becoming so common across the planet. I'm going to show you a few more instances of it. And this, if I was going to describe a mud flood to you, and we know about the global liquefaction events that have happened in the past that have buried buildings, and we suddenly have disappeared entire cities, and there's a few roofs or something sticking out of it from, 1500s, 1600s, very common time period for the same phenomena. Quintessential mud flood. So a lot of residences are buried, buildings are buried, and generally they'll come in a different direction, because if you didn't have, dozers and this sort of thing that we have, excavators today, you with shovels and picks, are you going to spend all the time to dig this out? That is a question. And it is so scoured clean that I look at this river basin right there. And this is where 25 or 30, 5 to 6 story buildings used to be seconds ago. That's how clean it is. Now, if you look there, you say, oh, there's never been anybody built here before, until you dig down. And perhaps you'll find something. And we wonder how many instances of this. So, for example, these hotels that are on the right side, would you spend the time to dig down an additional 1 floor or 10, 12 feet down to go to the original first floor? Or would you just pop in the second floor and that would be now your entrance? Although you'd have to, re-sculpt it to make it look like a front door, because it's actually just a balcony door. And then if you look at what was left over after this, you're going to find buried buildings and remnants all through if you actually poke down through the mud there. Now, this is why they always find civilizations building on top of civilizations, because this occurs, but at vast scale across the globe in resets of civilizations. We find this specifically across Europe, predominantly some Middle Eastern areas as well, where they've been covered, uncovered, remnants on top of remnants. But this is pushed, and you can see where it pushed. There's buildings in that tongue that is sticking out. Those are actual buildings that have been pushed forward into a different location. So how would you describe this? Well, is anybody going to rebuild here? Perhaps. And here we go in Russia. Not even a month earlier, another mud flow, another mud flood coming out of these hills. And again, burying buildings, partial burying. Look how fast and ferocious the mud is. I mean, after this buries entire towns, think about the 1600s. Without the machinery, you're not going to dig down. You're going to just punch in wherever it is on the second or third floor, however deep this mud goes. And that's why we routinely find windows at, once they do excavate today's world, they find windows at the lower levels. But I mean, look at how this mud is going to be rolling in and burying into that first floor. And then no stranger to massive just debris piles pushing downstream either. I mean, there's an enormous amount of force. What kind of flows are taking this out of the mountain first, then depositing it into the main tributary river, and then this is pushing down? And it's just nonstop churning, just grinding. The power involved in getting that down out of the small hills first is something to behold as well. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. We're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So we're, like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world. But then we have naked eye novas. And is it a coincidence that these two are visible within the last year? So June 26th or so, you're able to see both of these. And the Chinese are very diligent in recording these. So were the Magi. And if we go further back in time, these stars known as Kexing, or the visitor stars, they come, they're gone. That's why they're called visitor stars. It's not like a comet or something else, the Huixing, which is a comet that rolls through. These are known for omens, famine, civil unrest, and society going crazy is the best way that it can be described. Galactic cosmic rays, I think, are the thing that are pushing this. And if you've ever read Robert Felix's book, Evolutionary Leaps and Magnetic Reversals, it explains a lot of this. Cosmic ray bombardment changes an enormous amount, not only physically, but also anatomically in different species around the planet. So we have two of these going on. Our magnetic field is declining, and we're stepping off solar maximum at the same time. So if you've never watched the free movie, The Cloud Mystery, I highly encourage you to do so. Heinrich Svensmark, shout out. Always been a fan of your work. Diligently followed it. I understand your cosmic ray principle here on cloud building, and this fits right in. If we had an intense bombardment of two supernova visible, by the time you see that light, that means that energy is here, right? You don't see it if it's dark because the energy hasn't arrived. But that, the photons coming this way that we can see it with the light. Once it hits us and we're seeing two of them, that means the cosmic rays are here too. And we got a depleted magnetic field. So cosmic rays build clouds. And if they're building clouds, and then we start to get these rivers from the sky, it makes sense. More cosmic rays equal more cloud cover equals more rainfall. Very simple equation to put that into. So if we're getting a double input source and the water that was from Hunga Tonga still in our atmosphere floating around, do you think that we'd have additional rainfall? And now we're starting to see a lot of other perturbations in the crust, meaning those same cosmic rays excite electrical interaction and different chemicals in the Earth's crust. So especially if there's something with quartzite, that sort of thing, that electric field gets generated in there with more cosmic rays. And then we'll see what? More volcanic eruptions and higher, magnitude earthquakes. It's all a big circle based on energetic flows. Higher energy causes larger earthquakes, more volcanoes, and more intense storms. It's electrically driven. And speaking of that, this 8.8 earthquake, here's some tsunami footage for you. Now watch how this thing rolls up the hill. Now I would gauge you, like how high up do you think we are there? 100 feet off the beach. You think we're 100 foot high there, maybe a little higher. Guy's out walking his dog, and then, you think you'd be really safe up here. Wow, that's really far down. But look at that water just comes rolling up the hill. Now we see this through coastlines across the planet where we suddenly scoured and gouged down hundreds, plural, of feet up. Now here's your dissipation of the tsunami as it moved out from that same area. So those waves come rolling up the hill. And that's no joke. Like, these things can go hundreds of feet up hillsides when they get bunched into some valleys or whatnot. In Alaska, they've had, that's like a #1 place to study this, where tsunami waves are bunched in and they can't really go anywhere. And then suddenly they can only go uphill. And at the same time, also remember, there was that volcano that had not gone off since the 1400s era, instantly just snapped into motion after that earthquake. So, again, if you're bringing it back to cosmic rays, and we're on a cycle, and, the last time this thing erupted was in the 1400s. So then you have to ask yourself, are we in a 600 or 800 year cycle here? Is something beyond what we know as the 100-year, 50-year cycle? Now we're getting multiples of heavier, more powerful cycles that are triggering something. So the 1503 eruption, 600 years, that doesn't really fit the grand solar minimum 400-year cycle, but it's somewhere in the middle there. Others put different eruption dates at different times as well, further back. So 1200 AD was another one, and that fits perfectly right at that grand solar minimum 400-year interval. So you start to look at this and go, there's something else happening. And these are the earth cracks that were subsequent from the 7.9 earthquake in Myanmar. You start to see this earth rifting, and we get a lot of bridges down right now. Have you noticed how many bridges are faltering and being pulled apart from their banks? Same thing, crustal anomalies. For us, that's only like 10 or 20 feet, 50 feet. But for the earth, that's not even a rounding error, 50 feet of crustal movement. But our engineering, 50 or 100 feet, bridges collapse. For the earth, that's really nothing. Put it in perspective. And, at the size of some of these floods, biblical floods coming, this is on the edge of, we haven't seen things like this occurring before. Now, here's another river from the sky that just occurred last month, July 5th. Texas floods. Now, again, so much rain came down, like a year's worth of rain in just hours. You start to get into this thing, and how much rain can come down in a certain area at, previously unthinkable amounts. Are we even at that point yet, or are we just at the beginning of the unthinkable amounts? Or from this point forward, it's going to go 10 years of rain in a day, 5 years of rain in a day. If we move it forward out, multiply that by 10, how far out of its banks would it flow? A civilization changing type of floods coming. If we're looking at, what's that, Caryville, Texas, you're really looking out there like you're looking over at the end of the sea. The only thing bounding that river are those low hills way off in the distance over there, miles away. Now go on a 10x flood, and that's halfway up those hills over there. So you start to put, how large can these disasters become on our planet here? Because you see, it went from almost 0 to 35 feet in 5 hours, 5.5 hours. Multiply that. What if it went to 350 feet in 5 hours? Then we get into the point where nothing will function on our planet anymore, and insurers will not be able to insure a single thing. And at that point, all business will stop because there'll be no insurance. We'll have to revamp the economy completely when that happens. It's already beginning. So you see all these insurance people saying, oh, we can't insure this, premiums going on. They're just trying to cover. Jumping to Alexandria, Egypt. You never would think that you would see this hurricane force winds in Egypt. Now, would you? The floods in Alexandria with the strobe lightning that we've seen, that's becoming more of a normal thing here as our atmosphere gets more highly electrified. That's what we see. And now here, Italy, just a few weeks back, these small streams become raging torrents. So word to everybody out there, please do not take these lightly. You can see how small that little stream became, this thing that would rip buses and 18-wheelers over the edge of that thing. So your car has no chance of getting through there. I mean, the frost, look at those logs going down. You know how heavy lumber is? Oh my gosh. But water's powerful. Events that are flash or over time. Traces left by drops that have been falling at one point for 700 years. This is from 1282, the building date of Castel Nuovo, Naples, Italy. So again, we're talking long term, long cycles, short cycles, flash in the pan, or continuous. That's what we're seeing right now. So it brings me to the obvious question. Are you on shrooms? alphavedic.com/shrooms. It's a potent mushroom mix of cordyceps, reishi mushrooms, trichotillea, lion's mane, chaga, and fulvic minerals. Please support them. Another one of our sponsors for the video. Those links are in the description box below. Also, every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, Ransom Godwin and myself on Civilization Cycle podcast talk about these same issues, but 2 hours at a time when we try to blend in a little economy, food prices, and how this whole thing is swirling into one little pot here of change that we're being forced through, but we could glide through it if we have the correct information. So please join us over there Thursday night. I appreciate your time. Hope you got something out of the video. Smash that like button. Share with your friends and family. They need to be in the conversation as well. So I'll see you next time. Bye for now.